And for today's first session, Pathways to Practice, Innovation and Student Support for Transfer, we're very excited to bring everyone together here today because we have a diverse panel of professionals and we have two students joining us as well that are all doing important work to help improve our transfer pathways and focus on student success. Throughout the discussion today, Alexis, who is joining us as well, and our Transfer Nation team will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. So as we progress, we certainly encourage you to use those tools to reach out and put any questions in there as they come up, and we'll address those as we go and toward the end of the session in particular. So again, thank you very much for joining us. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Heather Adams, the founder of Transfer Nation, who will be able to give us a little bit of an intro and a welcome to everyone. Heather.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Hello. Happy Transfer Professionals Month. I'm so excited to see so many friends as well as new faces. I am Heather Adams. I am so excited to be at this event this year for Transfer Professionals Month. We actually had a planning committee. Thomas, Alexis, and a few other folks on this call were part of that planning committee. So this is the compilation of their hard work. So it's really wonderful to be here and kind of an honor to get to follow what they've been doing and what you all are doing in the field. So if you don't know what Transfer Nation is, come join us and find out. We're really a community that advocates for transfer, for learning mobility. We connect students and professionals, translate some of the complexity of transfer and the policy and practice around transfer, and basically activate and celebrate the people and the knowledge that make transfer work. Which is all of you. And we do this through a lot of different ways, think tanks, or conversations like the one that we'll have today, networking events. We have lots of social media, so feel free to use that QR code to follow us on whatever platform you choose. We also host Transfer Professionals Month, and we also have state chapters. So if you're in California, for instance, we have Transfer Nation California. I'll make sure to put some of those links in the chat. And we're working with a couple other states to do some new state chapters. And of course, we have our podcast. So you could listen to Transfer Nation Talks wherever you like to listen. I just wanted to give a little update on who we were and why we are. Transfer Professionals Month is really just a month to celebrate you all, to celebrate the folks doing the work, to elevate the work, to celebrate students as well, because let's face it, they are the transfer professionals of the moment. They are the experts in the moment, since they are living it as we go. Oh, I see that, Kevin. Okay, maybe Transfer Nation Ohio is next on our list. I like that. I see that in the chat. Anyway, that is it. If you're not following us, we're doing some spotlights of some incredible transfer pros out there who are doing the work across the country. We've got another couple of events at the end of this month. So keep track of that. We'll put all of the links in the chat for you. And just thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the planning committee. I'm applauding you on all your incredible work and the incredible media you've created for this month. So Thomas and team, take it away.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, just as a quick reminder, a recap, and maybe a bit of a run of show for today, this is a bit of an overview of our discussion. This is, as Heather mentioned, one of several items as part of Transfer Nation Presents, an ongoing virtual series which is focused on community building, networking, knowledge sharing across the transfer ecosystem. Today, we're going to be focused on the intentional design of student-centered programs, those that drive meaningful outcomes for our transfer students. We'll examine how these innovative ideas move through the system and how our day-to-day practice is affected, how institutions can develop, adapt, sustain programs that respond to evolving student needs. The discussion today, as I mentioned already, brings together the perspective of professionals from across the country, and we're also joined by two students today who can give us some of their perspective as well, and we're very excited. Today, we have folks working in admissions, advising student success, and as I mentioned, the transfer students themselves. And we'll also spend some time recording the critical role that all of you all, the frontline professionals, play in supporting this work and in the day-to-day. Advisors, counselors, admissions professionals, student affairs staff, virtually everyone can serve as a bridge between policy and the student experience. We like to say in the SUNY system that everyone will affect the student experience who works on a campus, and everyone can be a transfer champion. Um, Ultimately, today's conversation is about moving from ideas to action, learning from one another's experiences, and identifying the practical strategies that help our transfer students thrive wherever they are in their educational journey. So, with that, I'd like to quickly allow our panelists to say hello. We can just go right down in alphabetical order, I guess, for all of our panelists today. And please feel free to come off mute and introduce yourself, starting with Emily. We're thrilled to have everyone here.
Thanks, Thomas. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Armlin. I'm a Senior Assistant Director for Transfer Admission and Enrollment Services at Merrimack College. My background is previously in biochemistry, so that was my role before this. But I know we'll get kind of into how we've entered this space in the future. But excited to be here with you all today.
And Maria.
Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be with you today. My name is Maria Campanella. I am Director of Transfer and Special Population Admissions at Stony Brook University in New York. I've been working in higher education for the most part with transfer students for 25 plus years. Won't tell you exactly how long, but a long time. I've worked at 2 public universities and 2 private universities in New York. And currently, I am also the 2026-2027 NYSTA president, which is the New York State Transfer and Articulation Association. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And CJ, are you with us? I didn't get a chance to see CJ at the start, so but we will of course students have very busy schedules. So Stephanie, we'll go to you next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Stephanie Ferguson. I'm the Director of Student Success Insights and Programming at St. Louis Community College in St. Louis, Missouri. Previously, I was the coordinator of transfer pathways. And like Emily said, we'll kind of get into that whole thing here in a few minutes, but I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And Samantha?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Samantha Kibish. I am a university advisor or academic advisor in the Drummond Advising and Learning Resources Center at Santa Clara University in California. Yeah, excited to be here and be able to share some things we do and then also to learn some new things myself.
All right. And also very excited to introduce our student representative here today.
Hello, I'm Somi. I am a rising senior at the University of San Francisco. I am a transfer student as well, so this will be my second and unfortunately final year at USF, but I'm really excited. I am a theology major as well, so also really, really excited to represent our very, very tiny, tiny group, but
Exciting. Thank you so much. All righty. Well, thank you very, very much for all the introductions. We'll jump into our discussion and start learning a little bit more about all the transfer professionals that we have here with us today. But before we do, I do want to just remind everybody that you can go ahead and submit questions through the Q&A feature or through the chat feature. The Q&A is usually best, please. That allows us to kind of easily see everything. But certainly, I know we'll be monitoring chat as well and want to have some lively discussion where we can. Alexis, as I mentioned, and Vivian both are with us, and they'll be helping us work through the questions. So with that, let's begin with our first question. And actually, one thing I want to do as we're going through is particularly since Somi has joined us, we really do want to hear a lot about her experiences too. So at any point, Somi, I encourage you to jump in and let us know how a transfer professional or how one of these topics we're talking about has positively affected you and what your experiences have been like as a transfer student, good and bad. Of course, we're very interested in understanding the transfer experience. All of us work very hard to ensure smooth and seamless transfer, and we want to talk through all of those things today. But I'll begin with our first question, which is to talk a bit about how everyone entered into the transfer space. And I also will open that to Somi too, who can tell us a little bit about her transfer experience. So I'll start with whomever would like to begin first on the panel, and we'll go from there.
Oh, I'm off mute, so I guess I will go first.
Yeah.
So my journey actually started when I was 18 years old, a long time ago. I was deciding where I wanted to go to college, and my dream school was a private university on Long Island, which was quite expensive. My parents were divorced at the time, and I knew that finances were a big issue. I had done well in high school, top 10% honors and all that, and I had applied to a bunch of colleges and universities, and I actually chose to attend Nassau Community College as my first college to get my associate's degree first. And while I was there, I was hearing pretty negative things about it. I ran into a friend from high school, and he said, "Oh, well, nobody comes here if they do well in high school," and so that really got my dander up, and I was, really upset about that at 18. And so I decided in my English 101 class to write an essay, and I can't believe I remember this, about how there were three different types of students at Nassau Community College. And so I talked about students who had was there for financial reasons like myself. I said that there were returning students there, and then that there were students there who wasn't able to get into another university. So I would say that my advocacy for transfer students started pretty young. And so little did I know that that really paved the way for where I am today. So my very first job in higher ed was at Long Island University. I was a transfer coordinator. And I was also a academic advisor, and I did credit evaluations. And that was my really, I advised students in different majors and did credit evaluations. And when I was 20 something years old, I created this transfer credit evaluation manual for everyone to use. And for a lot of years, they used it. After Long Island University, I went on to Hofstra University as Associate Dean of Admission. I was there for 10 years. And I did everything transfer. So I advocated for transfer students. I was able to create a transfer brochure, transfer open house. I worked with the provost, a couple of provosts, to change core requirements. So it would benefit transfers who were getting transfer credits with their core requirements. I was able to get 2 full tuition scholarships right before I left after 10 years. And I said, my work is done. I can move on because I got all of those things done. But one of the things, a really fun thing, was that my first year when I was at Hofstra, I went to my very first NYSTA meeting. And I was in a room of about 50 to 60 people. And we started doing elections for downstate co-chairs. So we have different regions. And I'm talking to my friend, and all of a sudden I hear my name. And I turned to my friend and I said, "Oh my God, did you just hear my name?" And she said, "Yeah." So I go up to Ever Ingram, who was actually one of the founding members of NYSA back in '93. She was also the coordinator, transfer coordinator at Nassau Community College. And she came up to me, patted me on the back, and she said, "Don't worry, Maria." She's like, "It'll be good for you." And so little did she know how really good it was for me, back in, 2003. So after Hofstra, I went to Brooklyn College. I was the founding director of their transfer center for 4 years, and really did a lot of great things to really change the philosophy and landscape around transfer students. And long story short, I am now at Stony Brook University and on this webinar with all of you. I've been in various director roles at Stony Brook and finally came back to my roots a few years ago to continue to work with transfer students. Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful story. And I think you'll find that many of us who worked in the transfer field, in fact, were transfer students. So I'm interested in hearing more from others. Maybe Emily, we can go to you next.
Yeah, sure. I, like Maria, actually started off as a transfer student myself.
Hmm.
Out of high school, I thought that I really wanted a big, large university far away from home and kind of quickly realized that wasn't the right path for me. So I moved back home and enrolled at my community college, Hudson Valley Community College in New York, and started off there, spent a semester studying while I was applying to other institutions to transfer to. And then I finally landed at Union College in Schenectady, New York, where I was studying biochemistry and dance, and kind of didn't really think much about, my transfer experience and kind of saw it as, kind of just a piece to get there. And then I had joined the admission office as a student tour guide and started to get involved there and realized like, hey, like I can actually kind of connect with some more of the students that are coming in. We had a really small transfer population at Union when I was there. So it was just nice when students would come on tour and would be like, oh my gosh, I'm also a transfer student. So they had kind of encouraged me to get involved as a transfer ambassador with them, and gave me some really wonderful opportunities while I was studying. And the dean of students at the time had actually encouraged me to apply for the NISTS Transfer Student Ambassador Program, which is really what jump-started kind of my involvement in transfer professionally, and had the opportunity to, go to NISTS in 2023, which was one of the coolest experiences. I met so many wonderful people who I see on this call today, actually, too. So excited to see everybody. And that's where I met Heather. And I jumped in and got involved with Transfer Nation once I left NISTS conference. And Heather was nice enough to let me join the social media team as a student. And so I got to kind of dive in there and continue working in the transfer capacity while I pursued my master's. So I moved up to New England to study biochemistry again at the University of New Hampshire. And while I was teaching students there, I found I really loved working with students and helping them find their path and find, what they're hoping to get out of their college education. So I had been kind of having transformation things alongside of my studies, and when I graduated, knew that I wanted to change. I wanted to be able to help students in the same capacity that people had helped me. And so I started off here at Merrimack about a year ago, and now work in admission and enrollment services, and still get to teach a little bit at night too, which is really awesome.
Fantastic. Samantha and Stephanie, love to hear from you too. It's nice to hear Emily's story where she was working while, or was pursuing her advanced degrees while working, which is something I think a lot of us have done as well. I was a transfer advisor while pursuing my advanced degrees. And I know both of you have advanced degrees. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experiences as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm happy to share my journey. I myself am not a transfer student. My exposure to transfer students started, briefly when I was the assistant director for student organizations here at Santa Clara 13 years ago, when the transfer student union wasn't super active, but the commuter student union was really active, and we recognized a number of those students were transfers. And they wanted to find space. They wanted to be able to put their bags down if they were on campus campus for a long day because a lot of them were only coming to campus 2 to 3 days a week. And so my supervisor and I worked with the university to try and get resources for them, and he was able to get lockers on campus, which are still here. So it's nice to see that they're still used periodically. But I've moved roles since then, moved out to South Dakota and worked in residence life for 2 years, and then came back to Santa Clara working in graduate admissions, but then found my way back to undergraduates about 4.5 years ago in my current role as the academic advisor. So it was actually the woman who previously held my role here that was a big advocate for transfers, and she wanted me to kind of take over what she had previously done. She was doing webinars over the summer prior to orientation and those kinds of things. It was at that time that I was in my doctoral program, so I didn't have the brain capacity to be able to do that and learn a job at the same time. So it did kind of go on the back burner for a couple of years. It was actually last year that I graduated in 2024 with my doctorate. So it was after that I was able to be like, all right, let's do this. So I jumped in and worked with my supervisor to kind of figure out ways that I could improve things on campus. And I can talk about those later. But really, it was just kind of figuring out ways that things that we've seen, like Maria mentioned, looking at the transcripts and things that all of us do in our office, because our office is unique in that we advise every student, every major. So we see all majors coming through and all transcripts coming through. And so being able to streamline those processes. But yeah, every transfer student's journey is different. And so we wanted to be able to find ways that we could better support students. And it was actually in the doctoral program that a colleague of mine or cohort member of mine, she's an advisor over at a community college locally. And it was her experience as a transfer student and knowing the process of her students coming into our institution that really sparked me wanting to do more. Because she said it's honestly not easy for transfer students to come into the institution that I work at, which which you can see on the screen. Oops. But yeah, so my goal is to really help with that process, and we do have some new people on campus that are working on that as well. But I can share more of that later.
And Stephanie.
Yeah, so I would say that my work with transfer kind of goes hand in hand with when I fell in love with community college. Similar to Dr. Kibish, I was not a transfer student myself, but in my previous career, I was a high school teacher to a school of a very underserved population. And so I worked a lot with these students who felt the pressure to go to a big university, but didn't have the resources to. And so I would constantly kind of push them toward our community college network here, only to find myself transferring over to being a community college advisor here at St. Louis Community College. And so then in my work as an advisor, a student success advisor here, I saw how important transfer really was with influencing all of the other choices that students are making, whether that has to do with their futures, their careers, which programs they're going to take, so many different things. And so we really saw the importance of having good connections with our transfer partners and universities at the community college level to be able to best help our students. And so seeing that, I was actually able to pilot a new role that was called the coordinator of transfer pathways. And so my job became both working toward creating resources and creating relationships with universities, some of whom I see on this call, which is really exciting, but also for the first time ever to create programming for students who are wanting to transfer into a university. So I got to pilot a lot of different programming over the last few years as the coordinator of transfer pathways. And as I continued in that role for a few years, they decided that because transfer is so ingrained in career decision, that they would combine the two, add some data, and it became my new job, which is the Director of Student Success Insights and Programming. So I am very fortunate to be able to do transfer work both on the student-facing side of the programming aspect, but also I get to see everything through the data institutional lens, and I can help make those bigger decisions, data-backed decisions based on what would be best for these students in this new position. So I'm very fortunate to be where I am now. And I'm really, really excited to share more about the community college side of the transfer experience.
Well, and Somi and CJ, your journey is also of key interest to us. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your where you started, where you are now, and how you came to the decision to do that. And we'll start with Somi, and then right to CJ.
Yes, so my journey is a little different. I do represent kind of the older demographic when it comes to our transfer students. I am 27, so we do have very, very, very big journey. When I began my freshman year, I began at California Baptist University, and I did some time with them, and it was ended up not being like the best fit, and sometimes that does happen. And I also was able to get a really, really cool opportunity to just like do school online as I like worked, which kind of was the best way to incorporate it into my schedule. And that's kind of how I found Foothill because they just so happen to be one of the best community colleges in the country, well, and specifically our state. And I was doing some wonderful work with them, and I found out about the Humanities Mellon Scholars Program, which is a scholarship program that we have partnered with the University of San Francisco. That's also partnered with many other community colleges in the area. And I'm also the Foothill and Deanza because I was at both sister schools. So that is like the namesake of the program. And with that, I was able to become part of a cohort, take some wonderful humanities classes with this cohort throughout my time at my community college. We got an internship. My internship was at the Deanta Pride Center, where I was able to work like with my community and do some fantastic activism as well. But with this program, we also got a pathway and automatic exception into the University of San Francisco as long as we met those like GPA requirements, we stayed up with our classes, all of those things. And that is what brought me here. So pretty long journey, but I got here and now I also got to transfer with a degree. So I have a degree in anthropology and now I am working towards my bachelor's in theology and religious studies. Then we
Wonderful.
shall be transferring onward, but yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. CJ, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. What's up, everyone? My name is CJ, and I transferred from a community college in San Bruno called Skyline College. I actually attended all three of the sister schools, Kenyatta, College of San Mateo, and Skyline, but I did graduate with my degree in allied health. I got my associates there after 2 years. Um, like when I was in high school, I was like, I swore to myself, like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go apply to UCs, I'm gonna apply to CSUs. But of course, I had other plans, and that was just to go to community college and really figure out what I wanted to do in like a specific healthcare setting because I always knew I wanted to do healthcare. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just stick on nursing. So that's what I did. While I was in community college, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a PA or if I want to be a nurse, but I decided in community college, and I was able to get a lot of resources from all the staff members there, especially the transfer staff. Shout out to them. And while in community college, like I found like a lot of different communities out there, especially like um, our honor society. It's Phi Theta Kappa. I was vice president of membership there, and I met a lot of great people. I attended some like conventions like out of state, like in Missouri was where I really was able to meet new people and gain a lot of good connections, especially other people in healthcare, which was great. And at the same time, I found time to input any volunteering work in the hospital, just so I could really figure out if this was for me. I did 6 months at UCSF in the ICU, and I was like, yeah, this is for sure for me. And I was also an ambassador, an outreach ambassador at Skyline. I represented them for 2 years, traveling to high schools, promoting the school, why a student should go to community college first, and if they just need that extra time and not make a big decision of jumping into a UC right away, or a CSU or just like a university in general. And after those 2 years, I again got my allied health degree and transferred over to USF for nursing. And it was the only school I applied to for nursing because I knew I wanted to stay local to the Bay Area. I am from the Bay Area, from Daly City, which is 30 minutes away from San Francisco. And now I'm here with my Phi Theta Kappa scholarship in additions to my transfer academic scholarship as well. And now I'm also USF ambassador.
Wow. Impressive. Both of you have impressive backgrounds. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing that with us today. Um, I'm going to pivot a little bit though, and talk to both our professionals and our students with us today, and talk a little bit actually about transfer identity and transfer identity on campus, and particularly the ways that you have worked with transfer identity, the way you've seen it change over the years. And some of the ways that you may have championed some programs. So I'm very interested in hearing from the panelists. That interest what measures you've taken to establish a more transfer-friendly institutional set of policies and identity, and how have you championed transfer student success? So perhaps you could talk a little bit first about how you see transfer identity on campus and its importance, and some of the key things that you've worked on, perhaps, or been involved with in doing so. And I think we'll start. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with Stephanie first, since you answered last, and then we'll go right back through.
Perfect. And it works well because that's where they start, right, at the community college. And so one thing that is kind of cool, I think, with community college students is that any student could be a transfer student, even if they don't know it yet. You know, there have been many times when I first started programming, I started with transferring 101, and donut holes and transfer goals was like my first two little programming pieces that I did when I first started. And I had so many students come in and be like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. You know, like it's something that they don't even realize is an option. Like, oh, I can get a bachelor's degree in that. Like, that's cool. Or, oh, there are scholarships specifically for students with an associate's degree. Like, yes, there are. And so being able to provide that information for students and watching them see like they can finally start seeing their future become a little bit more clear going forward, is truly amazing and something that is very unique to the community college, sphere. Um, I think too, one thing I've seen that has changed, because I know we talked a little bit about how things have changed. I feel like the transfer pathways themselves are a lot less linear, I think, than they often seem to be. Here in Missouri, we have something called the Core 42, which is basically like 42 credit hours that are guaranteed to transfer to any of our public universities, and a select few private institutions, which is phenomenal. But so often, all of our what are they called? Are like MOUs with other universities. They are very much reliant on, all right, you first you take your 15 credits, then you take this next 15 credits, then you take and it's a very structured pathway. But we're seeing so many more students move between institutions, stop out and return, attend part-time, change their programs. I'll have someone come in the other day actually and said, I'm interested in either art or nursing. And I was like, okay, that's okay. Like, let's figure out which way to go, which classes to take. And so it's becoming a lot more about balancing what they want to do, what their career goals are, what it is they can do in the future, while also ensuring that they know that they're supported, that they have the resources available to them to, if they decide to transfer, they are able to. And it's also kind of a balancing act in, we want to make sure that you are able to attain your goals and transfer, but we also want you to finish your degree first at an associate's degree level, and then showing them the importance of that and the benefits of finishing a degree before then transferring and getting a bachelor's or master's or even a doctorate. And so I would say right now that's kind of where we are.
So glad you mentioned that, Stephanie. As we know, as professionals in the field, that finishing that degree at the associate level, it really is a real sign of potential success at the baccalaureate level. And students who do that usually graduate more quickly at the 4-year level. And I was pleased to see that both Somi and CJ had indicated that they had completed their associate's degrees before moving on versus transferring early. And that's a very important part of the transfer process to acknowledge as well. And Samantha, coming from a 4-year institution, can you tell us a little bit similarly what your experiences have been?
Yeah. For us, the transfer student identity has been, I think there's a stereotype of the transfer student identity in that, oh, they've been to school already, they understand the systems, they understand the policies, but every institution is different. And especially going from a public community college to a private institution, there's so many different nuances within our structure that transfer students don't always understand. And whether it's a non-traditional transfer student who may be older, doing a second path in life, or we're actually seeing a large number of younger transfer students. So transfer students coming in, whether they started at a 4-year institution and did a semester or a term or a year and then coming to us, or maybe they did a year or a year and a half at a community college and come in before completing that AA degree. So that's been something we've noticed throughout the last 3 years in our orientation sessions is the students are a little bit younger and don't have that foundational knowledge. And even our transfers who come in with the maximum number of units still don't have that foundational knowledge because we're a Jesuit institution and we have our own jazzy things that we like to do. So a big issue we've seen for a number of years is that so we accept transfer students in fall, which is our primary group that come in, but we are a quarter system and we also admit students in winter, and that's a smaller population, but they don't receive, well, neither of the groups of fall or winter really receive an orientation because again, the assumption is they're adults, they understand the system, they know what's going on, but we have a career center, we have a veteran center, we have a number of transfers who are veterans, we have so many different resources that they don't know, and they also don't really understand how their majors can move to a career. So it's our responsibility to give them those resources, whether it's redundant or not. So something my supervisor and I are working on is working with the admissions office to bring in, we do a preview day in the spring for our fall admit. So we're looking at, can we do a preview day for our winter admit? So they have the opportunity to make sure that this is the right space for them. This last fall, I also started the transfer student advocacy working group, which is a group of 12 faculty and staff and 1 student representative, just based on availability, that come together monthly to talk about transfer student issues, transfer student concerns, programming that they want to see, any sort of initiatives. So that's something that we are working on to try and build awareness around the transfer student need and how it differs from our traditional students. We're working on bringing the transfer student National Week to campus this upcoming fall. So the first, I think the school has done it in the past, but hasn't done it in a while. So we're bringing that back. And we're working on some initiatives of priority registration, developing a transfer student class. We're also working on, and now I blanked on the last thing that I was going to mention. But yeah, we're working on a number of things and trying to make sure that transfers are a highlight of our institution because one, the university wants to increase the population, but 2, we got to be able to support them when they get here. And I think that's, again, another stereotype is that they'll be fine when they get here, but that's not true. There's so many different pathways and journeys. And, Stephanie mentioned that there are majors and degrees that they can complete, but even those extracurriculars of like study abroad, like we had a transfer student who studied abroad twice in the last couple of years because they went during the summer. Like that was their opportunity. That's what fit for their schedule. So being able to highlight those stories and engage with those students who seek out those opportunities is what I'm really trying to do with my transfer student advocacy group. Like how can we make sure those transfer students recognize the opportunities they have by coming to this institution?
Wonderful. Really, really some good ideas too for other institutions. Samantha, thank you so much for sharing that. And Emily, I'd love to hear what things look like at Merrimack College.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you both mentioned too about the, wide range of transfer students that you work with. We similarly have such an awesome group of students that we work with day to day, and we're really seeing, something that I think I've seen change a lot over the time from when I transferred to now. Students really are very mobile right now. Learners are really coming from, all different experiences. A lot of times we work with transfer students who, spent one semester at their institution and they're like, actually, that wasn't the right fit, and I want to come to Merrimack now. But I'm also working with a lot of students who like have associate's degrees and went and worked for years and are coming back as adult learners. And so we've got a really nice wide range, and I love that that's, being represented and celebrated across campuses now. We have, jumped in on kind of quite a few initiatives to try and really help support this population as much as we possibly can. We do participate in the Massachusetts transfer guarantee through the independent college transfer guarantee. So similar to what was mentioned earlier about, credit between the community college system and the four-year institutions. So we're fortunate to kind of, be able to partner with a lot of wonderful community colleges in the area, encourage students to, again, complete their associate's degrees and then come to Merrimack, and they can, get benefits for their, completing their general education curriculum prior to coming over. We also we were excited to launch our first transfer week. We celebrated last year. It was the first time that we were able to do that. So I have an awesome team that I work with, and we were able to build initiatives for both prospective transfer students and our current transfer students. So we invited some of the recent transfer students to lunch and to chat about like, hey, what went well in your transfer process? Where would you love more support? Where did you feel like you had, maybe too much going on? So it's just nice to kind of hear from them like, hey, yeah, I loved that, you recognize that I'm not new to college, but I am new to Merrimack. Or, I would have loved some more guidance on this. So that was really awesome. And then we were able to engage a lot of our prospective transfer students through talking more about the transfer guarantee process through mass transfer, through some of our events that we have on campus that are specifically designed for transfer students. One of the big ones that our team runs is Transfer Connections Day, which is a really exciting day that we try to have about once a month. And we welcome prospective transfer students, admitted transfer students who have deposited, and it's really meant to be a one-on-one experience for them. So they get the broad info session and the transfer specific information, but then they get to meet one-on-one with campus partners. So we try to build those bridges, before they get here, so they're able to say coming in, oh, I already talked with an academic advisor and I know what my plan is going to look like to graduation. And I was able to connect with other transfer students, and I know my transfer counselor, and I know what's next for me. So I'm really grateful to work on such an awesome team that is building all these partnerships across campus. And we have a lot of awesome campus partners that we work with day to day, from the registrar's office, the academic advising office, the faculty. Everyone's really excited about the growing population of transfer students that we have here. So it's just a cool spot to be working in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Maria, your story as well at Stony Brook.
Thanks. So I think, talking about how processes have changed for transfer students in terms of admissions, in addition to the transfer identity, but I think institutions have really become more proactive rather than reactive at this point. They're not thinking of transfers as an afterthought, although some may still be, but there's now actually strategic, data-driven enrollment plans for transfer students. And so, colleges and universities have developed special recruitment teams and career centers and credit evaluation teams and coaches and things like that. They're paying more attention to the credit evaluation process. They're paying more attention to helping prospective students be able to see how many transfer credits they have. Many colleges and universities are creating that director of transfer admission position, which we didn't see like, a really, really long time ago. And these positions really are made to really advocate for those students. And I think that also institutions have started to at least reevaluate and talk about the way they welcome students. So in the past, it was always, welcome class of 2026, right? And so there are a lot of universities, who really now say, welcome new students, because when you say welcome class of whatever the date, you're really excluding a whole group, transfer students, and saying welcome new students is really more inclusive. And I use those words, equity, inclusion, really intentionally because these things are really embedded in higher ed. They're embedded in our conversations, in our strategic plans, in our titles, right? But where they really need to be is in policies for transfer students and processes, because we need to remember that equity and inclusion means transfer too, that they have access to everything that a first year student would have. And at Stony Brook University, we really strive to make sure transfer students feel that connection, feel that sense of belonging, and most importantly, feel valued, just like a first year student would feel. So some policies that we've created, instituted, we developed a new Phi Theta Kappa transfer scholarship, which we started last year. We've initiated more joint admissions programs, guaranteed admissions programs to have that seamless degree and really encourage beginning to work on your associate's degree first, because we know that students who have an associate's degree do tend to persist more. We also started to sending out decisions earlier. We accept a maximum of 84 credits, so we don't have a maximum for community college, which is really important. So I think that policy is really good. We've also made sure that our prospective students have access to credit evaluations and things like that. So they're able to meet with an advisor actually at their campus, at our top partner institution campuses. We call it Seawolves at Suffolk. And an advisor is there to talk to them about their program and things like that and what to expect. And so those kind of things are really, really important, and persisting about those policies and programs, especially for a population that hasn't always been seen as, an important, you know, a, as the most important piece of the puzzle. So, there's a lot of things that, we've done, looked at websites. A simple thing that a university could do is just where are transfer students not included on the website? Could be very simple. I recently saw that for our housing website, they were talking about first year housing and graduate housing, but there was no mention of transfer. Now, it was a really easy fix. I just had to send an email and they added it there. But just little things like that, think about always through the lens of a transfer student, right? How would you feel? Do you feel, does anything make you feel left out in anything that's written on your website or any kind of policy? Does it leave out the transfer student? So always thinking about when you're developing these policies through their lens and what would make them feel most included and valued.
Absolutely, very good to bring up. I mean, sometimes the smallest things can really have profound effects. For example, transfer orientation. One of the things we found is that having shorter, which is very common for institutions to have shorter transfer orientations for transfer students, assuming they're just going to know everything. But in many cases, our transfer students have said, no, we want that full day experience like other students, and being more supportive in that regard, and just taking that different posture had profound effects on retention and student engagement. So, Somi and CJ, I'm interested in hearing a little from you in terms of what your experiences have been like coming in, especially around the issue of the transfer identity and whether or not, and how you have felt seen, or maybe some spaces where there's some room for improvement in your experiences.
Okay. I'm gonna keep it a little transparent. So when it came to like transferring over, The transfer population was very huge in my community college, especially me working as an outreach ambassador. Um, I kind of like spoke on behalf of other pre-nursing students who were also trying to complete their prerequisites. And me working for the school, I was there to help them out and give them that advice. But when it came to actually transferring over to like USF, for example, um, there were separate cohorts for just transfer students and first year students. And of course, I was able to genuinely connect on them or connect with them because I decided like when I got to USF, I was like, I'm gonna take on leadership positions so I don't feel like alone in my journey as a nursing student. So I decided to become like cohort representative for my entire transfer cohort so I could connect with other transfer students. But also the fact that I live in the Bay Area, I commute to USF from home. So it kind of defeats the purpose of like what college is all about. And like some people think college is like dorming, getting making new friends through dorming and housing. However, as someone who doesn't dorm on campus and commutes, I'd say the community is a little bit spread out in terms of like me needing to always go to campus just to earn a connection. But I'd say it really takes a lot of effort as a transfer student to want to connect with not only transfer students, but first year students who might be in the same major as you, whether or not it's nursing or a different healthcare profession that they're majoring in. So I'd say like I made the most of it. So I told myself like I want to make friends. I want to earn that college experience, even as a commuter. So I joined more clubs and organizations in order for me to get a good positive demographic of where I am as a transfer student because I want to make sure that I'm not like, quote unquote, not wasting my time, but really maxing out my the amount of years I have left here. Because for transferring over, yes, I did 2 years at a community. You would think it's 2 years for transferring into the nursing, but it's actually three. So I took that as an extra year, as an extra opportunity to make more memories, to gain more experience with new people, or some people that I transferred with from my own community college as well. And that's kind of it. Like it wasn't as expected in my first semester, but as I put my foot through the door and stuff like that, joining those clubs and forcing myself to be more sociable and interactive with my peers and professors, it turned out to be a really great experience. And I would never, I'm not looking back. I don't regret my decision of transferring over, and I think it's a great pathway for a lot of students if they're thinking about being a nursing transfer.
Wonderful story. And Somi?
Yes. So I mean, like CJ and I are like do have like different transfer experiences and we are coming in from different places because I do kind of represent our older transfer students and what it is like to transfer kind of as somebody who has already had like that dorming experience and those other college experiences. So I'm kind of coming in it from a different angle. And one thing that I have like just noticed when it does come to finding community, um, we do find each other. Like we will be in our classes, and like the other transfers, other like older students, we will be able to like find each other and kind of connect on those things. And specifically as when I was in my community college what the my internship at the Pride Center was working with kind of incoming students. So I was on that receiving end of people coming into school for the first time and helping them through that. And that wasn't something that I really experienced so much here because we just had so like we gave so much hands-on support on making sure students were able to really have a seamless integration from just like high school into college and also prepping them to transfer out because we were a community. So we wanted to make sure that like they were getting as much love and as much of that college experience at the community level before they're going on to, a private or somewhere else and trying to give them that knowledge and prep work. Um, but sometimes it does suck when you have a good handoff and you don't have like the best tack on, especially when you are an older student, because a lot of our transfer things are geared towards our younger students trying to gain more of that like college experience. Um, Also, I do have the benefit of being a university ambassador and working with the undergraduate admissions. So I have spoken to some of our transfer like counselors about this very thing specifically. I'm gonna shout out Francis Kalimnum. He's amazing. He also works with veterans, so he's getting older transfers too. And this specifically is a thing that we are trying to kind of maybe get a transfer space on campus so that our students are able to kind of connect even when they are on campus. Because as CJ did mention, when you don't live on campus, it is hard to get all of those insights, especially when they have late night things where a lot of those community bondings are happening. So we do also urge for daytime activities too, and things that are happening, especially during what we call our dead hour, because students are more likely to be on campus during those times. But um, even though it, I think any handoff is just going to come with its own like bugs in the system, but because USF is just such a community-based school, you feel the love anywhere, even if it is from non-transfer students. So that is like a really, really wonderful thing too. Yeah.
Well, Somi and CJ, I'm glad that you got the last word. I think both of you brought up some key points, things that we're all often very much focused on, considering the whole transfer student, the way that all of these different life experiences, whether you're a commuter or not, the different types of intersecting identities, competing priorities, and so forth, you have affect your experience. And I'm impressed, very impressed with both of you and the leadership role and the active role that you've taken, not just in your own path, but in helping other students, which I think is very critical. I think one of the things I would hope we take away from this today is that we're fortunate to have students like you that will do that work with us. And I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of you end up in a transfer professional role in the future. So thanks for joining us. I'm not seeing any open Q&A questions currently. I want to make a quick mention that Heather and Alexis in particular have been killing it in the chat. They've been putting out resources and grabbing onto things that people have said and provided extra context and links and so forth. And very much appreciated. And I do want again to thank all of the participants in the panel today, and really appreciate your time. We hope this was helpful to join in with other transfer professionals today to see the good work that's being done, and hopefully we came away with some good ideas and energized in our mission. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone have a great rest of your day, a great rest of the week.